Imagine you had a mechanism to anticipate the outcome of a seemingly impossible-to-beat casino game with massive prizes. With just a few wins over time, you and your confederates could all be millionaires. Sounds good? Worth the risk? Think again. On January 14, 1995, a player at Bally's in Atlantic City purchased $100 worth of Keno tickets at $10 apiece, with 8 numbers selected on each ticket. Buying Keno tickets is not indicative of a professional gambler. The game is aimed at casual players, addicts, and those tired of the rock and roll bingo lifestyle. So when Reed Errol McNeil went upstairs to collect his receipts, no one was worried about the situation. A few minutes later, however, everyone who had any duty to secure Bally's games was paying close attention to Mr. McNeil. One of those tickets had matched all 8 numbers against odds of 230,000 to 1, resulting in a less than generous $100,000 reward. Nobody was more startled than McNeil, who was abruptly caught off guard by casino security, who wanted to ask Lucky Errol some serious questions before handing him his money. Several parts just didn't seem right. McNeil was not overjoyed with his unexpected fortune. He had no identification and refused to accept a check. The casino's biggest concern, however, was that no one had ever won that much at Keno in Atlantic City's history. Understandably, this player warranted a little scrutiny before giving up the Benjamins. So state troopers were summoned and asked to confirm McNeil's identification. When they arrived at his hotel room upstairs, things soon started to unravel. In Errol's room was a second gentleman named Ronald Harris, who appeared strange and evasive to the gaming detectives and law enforcement personnel. Because no crime had been established or suspected at this point, after establishing Harris and Morris's identities, they left Ron Harris in the room and took McNeil downstairs to ask some additional questions. When they investigated Ronald Harris, they discovered that he worked for the Nevada Gaming Control Board, implying that something was amiss. But the question remained, what? How does a Gaming Control Board employee anticipate the outcome of a sucker's wager at odds of 230,000 to 1? The answer was in Mr. Harris's day-to-day employment as a computer specialist in Las Vegas, ensuring that slot machine chips were not messed with, replaced, or reprogrammed. His work required him to randomly choose machines and inspect their EPROM chips. Under additional examination, he was accused of modifying the slot machine processors to pay out in response to specific coin combinations. If a player inserted coins into the slot in a specific order, the reprogrammed EPROM would immediately pay out a prize. It was believed that Harris hired multiple Confederates to use this information on reprogrammed machines throughout the city, earning thousands in a single sitting. When Harris returned from Atlantic City, he was arrested and dismissed. The subsequent inquiry resulted in charges, but it remained unclear how he had won a Keno game thousands of miles away in lovely New Jersey. As a computer engineer, Harris had seen that computer programs at the time struggled to create random numbers, and instead relied on algorithms based on previous sequences or results to predict future occurrences. He realized that there might be a flaw that he might exploit by duplicating the code used to create Keno numbers. He could then insert historical results from a target game and make predictions using the same technology. He reasoned that if the same program operating on the same type of machine produced the same outcomes, the numbers created by Harris's machine would be close enough to the casino numbers to yield a profit. Harris constructed his device using stolen equipment and scheduled a flight to Atlantic City, where his friend McNeil would purchase tickets for a few days to test Harris's notion. The trouble was that it worked too well and too rapidly. They won the largest jackpot ever recorded for the game of Keno on their first try. No one was more startled than Harris, who had just wanted to test his system before launching it in Nevada and had naively booked into the same hotel where he was attempting to cheat under his own name. But there's more to the story. Ron Harris was hired to orchestrate the perfect crime, a rigged slot machine that prevents royal flushes from being hit when players bet the maximum number of coins. The machine's chipset had been tampered with, but the real reason is who did it. Ron approaches lead programmer Larry Volk, who is nervous and reluctant to meet him. After much persistence, they meet in a diner just out of town, where Larry admits to ordering the code for more than 500 of the company's machines. The cheating resulted in $17 million in fraud over the last 3 years, embarrassing the Nevada Gaming Control Board and many of Vegas's casinos. Larry agrees to stand witness against American Coin in court, but things quickly turn sour when Larry's wife starts receiving threatening phone calls. This is a huge turning point for Ron, who feels let down by the system and feels responsible for the house. Ron has a grander plan ahead. He modifies the programming equipment the testers will use so that as they are testing the machine, the chip would be corrupted with his own pre-programmed cheat code. He locates one of the slot machines that have been tested and positions himself at a compromised slot machine. His burning desire to take down the house has taken over, and he configures the slot machine to trigger the jackpot after a precise sequence of coins that are inserted into the machine rapidly one after the other. The machine's chip recognizes the cheat code and adds $200 to the slot machine's balance, around $500 in today's money. Ron knows it works, but he faces a problem, as any reputable winner will know big payouts mean big attention. He tries to play the credits away remarkably, but loses part of the accumulated balance. After losing part of the accumulated balance, he quietly walks away, knowing that the next player can have the remaining credits. Harris becomes fixated on the algorithm that generates these numbers over time and concludes that the random number generator operates based on an intricate mathematical formula. He calls his friend Reed to play Keynote on his behalf and targets Atlantic City in January 1995. They plan to attempt the biggest scam in Keno history, potentially returning $100,000 each time. Reed arrives at the Atlantic City Hotel and agrees to meet in reception. Ron isn't there but checks into his room and leaves a memo with reception so he knows which room he's in. The next morning, they prepare themselves in their hotel room, where Ron monitors the casino's Keno results via the television in his room. By entering the previous draw's numbers into his computer, he can predict the next draw. Reed is anxiously waiting for Ron to send in the selections back to the hotel room, but they fail to pass the expected combination. They try again, and they win the jackpot. However, their meticulous planning stops at the point of winning. Reed McNeil attempts to collect the $100,000 jackpot from suspicious casino staff, but he accidentally gives the casino staff his ID and room number. The casino security boss knows Ron, and 3 heavy-set casino staff appear at Reed's hotel room door. They ask for a quiet word in a back room downstairs, and Ron goes with them. Ron packs his bag and leaves for the airport. He lands in Las Vegas a few hours later, and staff from the Nevada Gaming Commission and the police are waiting for him. The game is up, and Ron is given a 7-year prison sentence and entered into Nevada's Black Book alongside other big-time casino cheats. An important lesson for anyone attempting to get an advantage over a casino or other players is to avoid hitting the game so hard that you must leave town as soon as you have the money. For example, it's frequently claimed that a good deck switch will wake the dead in a poker game because it's such a powerful, surefire way of grabbing everyone's money. However, there's a reason why some coolers are so effective that they must be used in a hit-and-run fashion. Put yourself in Ron Harris's shoes. You're dishonest enough to sabotage slot machines around Las Vegas. You discover a means to conquer a game that might potentially pay out hundreds of millions of dollars. When you give that notion a quick test drive, you wind up striking all 8 numbers on a single ticket the first time. What are the chances? Talk about poor luck. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel before you leave.